Weber. Kimmel.
Here.
Zuzak.
Here.
Bunyan.
Here.
Gargle.
Here.
Steckel.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Approval of agenda, are there any additions or deletions? Okay, I would like to take this time right now, I'm sorry. Always anxious. Yes, approve, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second. Weber.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Zuzak.
Yes.
Bunyan.
Yes.
Gargle.
Yes.
Steckel.
Yes.
Wheeler.
Yes. I want to take a minute to publicly apologize to the community in our error of the figures that were given out to you. I apologize. I, as the board president, the board did not look at them like they should have, and we promise we won't do that again. So I apologize. I know that may have caused some people some high anxiety. Okay, public comment. I have two requests. Mr. John Geiser.
My wife warned me since I'm going to be 70 shortly that I'm getting rather outspoken, so I'm trying to keep this sedate. Basically, we, the committee and the community, which is really the community, have had, I think, an overwhelming response, a concern. There's days that we get many, many calls concerning what the tax liability is, a lot of confusion, that if the project doesn't go through Lincoln, that the Lincoln School is basically gone, for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we try to make that clear to them, not that we're threatening them, excuse me, to do a yes or a no vote, but we want that to be clear. And number two, the other confusion I think that's overwhelming is the tax liability. A lot of people think that the 4.1 million is not taxable, and also that their tax liability is only going to be on the referendum of 9.8. And we feel that that should be clarified as easily as possible. So what we're asking is that we get some figures on the project amount for Sparlin, for the middle school project, so we can compare what tax liabilities will be. Their taxes are going to go up either way we go. That includes the farmers, the people in the city, or in the town community, wherever. There's no question about it. So what we had looked at when the past referendum or last year's referendum, that the board had some frequently asked questions, and some of these I'm going to kind of read or look over, and I hopefully not missing too much. But and also this year I understand that the board has asked the architect to figure or develop a 4.1 million solution here. We feel that that is not inclusive of what all would be required to do this addition over here. But also the last referendum on the frequently asked questions, which by the way the board approved those comments because that was an information committee, a little bit different than our committee, and had to be approved. And one of the cost factors that they had put down, well, number one, the add-ons for that school, and I'll try to read some of this best I can, was to properly add on to these existing schools, which was actually the middle and the high school, which we now know this particular project will be approximately 500 kids here, pre-K through 8. So that cost factor for doing that project last year was somewhere around about 11.1 million. And that figure was to do the high school and here, but even if you cut the high school out, you still have to put all those kids someplace. So there's going to be, even if somewhere between that total figure still has to be pretty close to what 9.8 million is to do the Lincoln grade school referendum. We haven't got that figure, which I think is going to be on the agenda tonight. We hope to have something from that standpoint. The busing, the parking, the playgrounds, the kids drop off and all those things were actually considered last year as a not a good reason to do that project here last year. I don't know if that's been considered this year or not. The other thing that we were going to ask about too, oops, don't need that, that we hope the board members should be watching and listening with an expectation to hear and see the same, and if not hear, seen or heard, and believe to be unconscionable for the board not to accept such plans as viable options, which were to not address those points, not to do the project, same points that we had last year. Many people too have been extremely concerned about the fire issues. In discussion with Greg Costley, who's the fire chief, who was asked not to speak tonight, but we can discuss the things that we've talked with him, was that in case of a fire at the middle school, there's no responding fire truck will hook up to the pumping water into the fire because there's not enough pressure and would have to be filled at the lake. And there's no fire hydrant up here. The fact is the responders will have to use a tanker truck, haul water to the fire, probably call Chillicothe, most likely Henry, possibly Toluca, and these will all be tanker trucks at this point. So we assume that issue has to be addressed. What's the cost? What's our tax liability going to be? Even if it comes out of reserve fund, that's still got to get replaced by tax dollars. There again, anybody in the Lake and Midland community would have to address that. That would be liable. So that's basically all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Myself, I really don't find that the information that our superintendent put out last time was all that wrong. It may have been a little high. But it was a safe way of doing it with flat EAV, effective way of presenting the information. Seeing as how we've never had a final dollar amount ever voted on or discussed in an open meeting, I don't know how we can really argue those dollar amounts because we don't know what that is. The only thing I found maybe a little confusing until I found out how it was all put together was that the information provided was not based on your last tax bill that you received, but on your next tax bill, which will have a rate increase on it. The school rate being used as current is 4.73, which you will not see until you receive your next tax bill. The last bill you received was a tax rate of 4.54. Then there are additional increases, I'm sure, that we're going to see from other taxing bodies within the district. Some claim that we'll see higher EAVs and lower taxes. Well, the statement is that, higher EAVs, lower tax rates, it will not decrease your tax dollars. When the money is borrowed, you have to pay the full amount and the interest. In fact, if you look at the EAVs at Midland from 2011 through 2013, we've seen an increase in EAV of $95,000 on a $100+ million EAV. During the same period, the total state EAV has declined by $36 billion in 2012 and $26.5 billion in 2013. Makes me wonder if our local climate control is unaware of the actual financial climate that we're living in. Finally, you need to check out the Illinois School Board Association's website. One of the main topics on their site is titled, EAV declines, tax rates rises. So how do we explain this? After reading through their explanation, it seemed to me that their final solution to this issue was to don't try and dazzle the voters with brilliance, but baffle them with BS. I invite you to visit the IASB site and enjoy the read.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to hear a presentation from Mr. Tom Leahy from the Illinois Association of School Boards. This is a presentation regarding our hiring of superintendent. Okay. It's hard to understand, but go ahead. Try it.
Get ready to microphone, speak loud. Yes, gentlemen in the very far back, can you hear me speak? Okay. All right, thank you. My name is Tom Leahy, and I'm from the Illinois Association of School Boards, the same organization that gentlemen referred to as IASB. I'm not involved in writing any of the articles having to do with the I am here, in fact, as a consultant. We work with the board on we provide that as a process for our board of education, and you are a member of our board. And I've been invited to come and speak to you. In fact, some of these mics are picking me up here, I think. With that, Mrs. Wheeler, I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. Yes, that'll work well, thank you. So with that, I want to bring attention to the folder that I passed to you, and that actually has some details in regard to our process. You'll notice that the first sheet on the right is a proposal letter that tells you of the services that we provide as part of the basic search. We are a not-for-profit organization, but it does cost a fee-based cost of $6,400 to conduct a search. It's approximately a fourth to a third less than what for-profit organizations for-profit search firms do. So with that, notice that when you look at that letter, it has bullets on it that we will in fact help with the entire search. We will help you develop a brochure, and that is this document. If you take one and pass it on, please. This is an example of what the announcement of vacancy or brochure will look like that we publish, and we will send to about 6,000 individuals who have told us that they want to be a superintendent. They are a part of the IPA, the principals organization, the superintendent's organization, and sitting superintendents. The general information form, and Mr. Severson, I sent that to you, and I believe they have a copy of that as well. If you approve us to do a search for you, we right away would post the opening tomorrow. It would be on our website and also on the IASA Job Bank website. We will then begin the development of the information for this brochure from the document that I sent to your superintendent. The other piece I want to mention to you is that we ask the board then, if you do choose to have us do this, to fill out this survey that I'm passing to you now independently. You have a copy of it, by the way, in your packet, but I'm going to send an extra one to you so you can use that. Take your time, fill it out independently, pass it back into your district office, and then that can be scanned to me. And that way I will then compile the results and use that to help develop the criteria or characteristics that you're looking for in the next superintendent. There are other options available to you if you wish to do them. Look at the third sheet on the right side. We are not recommending that. Two reasons: it adds cost and it adds time. And we don't see a need for that. We just need to get this moving and move forward with the basic piece of all the areas necessary to have a pool of candidates. We anticipate having between 30 and 50 candidates apply for any position. We had as many as 84 for a position in the northeast part of the state recently. We will screen those ourselves independently down to a group and bring them to you to recommend that you interview them. So we do all of the groundwork. We make sure they're licensed, make sure they have the degrees, and such as that. So the timeline, and you'll notice that this document, this little timeline, is some suggestions by us to have you, for example, if you approve us this evening, we will post it on the websites tomorrow. I would gather the information in February. I would come back to another meeting with you to approve the final brochure in another meeting in February, as soon as possible. Have the final date to apply to be set by us as our recommendation, probably the mid part of March, in that range. And then you would begin interviewing after we present those candidates to you. And then the process keeps moving until you select someone and hire them. So it's kind of a nutshell of what we do, and I hope that's clear to you. And if you have questions, I'd sure try to address those.
I guess, is this search survey document the only information you collect from us in regards to exactly what we're looking for, so you can narrow that field of potentially 50 candidates down to the six?
So we talk with you whenever we develop a brochure and ask of you if there's some other things.
Okay.
And for example, if you have building issues and or construction possible or something like that, we want to be sensitive to the needs and have someone perhaps apply and take a position that has experience, whatever it is you're working on. Okay.
Great.
That's a start, if you will. Some boards do it with that and leave it at that, but we'd rather they tell us some real true needs here. You also would have a view of whether they live in the district once employed and whether they've had previous superintendent or administrative experience.
Thank you.
Longer answer than short question, maybe, but other questions? Anything else? Any other questions? Please.
Have you, or would you, or do you already have an itemized list of all of the responsibilities that are current superintendent?
No, we'd like to have that. It would be like a job description, job responsibilities. That would be helpful for us and work from that too.
So other than our wish list, I'd like that as a reference, because Mr. Severson does not a lot. I'm sure that we wouldn't miss anything.
Sure. I will share with you that we are currently working with Putnam County, doing a search for them. I worked with Washington 52, Central 51, and Washington High School last year. We were also doing Peoria 150 search, which they just did complete. I was the lead person there as well. So we're hovering around you. I would like it by probably the first part of the week. And then the sooner the better. Once you collect all of them, scan them to my email. Okay. I should have started out by introducing myself a little more thoroughly. I've been a teacher 6.5 years, a principal for 14, and a superintendent for 14. And so with that, I've been working with the association now for 8 years, all of a sudden. Joyce and I lived in Pike County in western Illinois, and we had 12 grandkids as well. That's not that that's big, but it's big. Other questions? Anything else for me?
Is it agreeable to the board to take action on this now? Can I have a motion to accept? I'll bring it off.
Approve the contact with the administration.
What?
I'll make a motion to approve the contact with the Illinois Association of School Boards to conduct an employment search for superintendent of schools.
Okay, a second.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Wheeler.
Yes.
Cargill.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Bunyan.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Stickle.
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay, the second thing, action and discussion item is I'm going to introduce Mr. Tom Cox and Mr. Chuck Bennett. And turn the program over to them. You have some things that you would like to share with us.
Good evening. Tonight, what we want to do is introduce, and I mean that in the broadest definition of the word, introduce two concepts to you. One would be, first of all, what we would talk about is Plan B, or what would potentially happen if the referendum does not pass. And what we're basing this on is direction that we've been given from the school district, and then also based on some work that's happened over the last few months, kind of outlining and getting to this point in time. In both concepts that we're sharing with you tonight, we're not asking for any sort of final decision or approval. We're simply giving you this kind of in the first look. We're shooting for that February 8th time frame to have this completed and wrapped up so that this information is available and ready for either publication on your website or for use in an informational brochure, however you would prefer to use this information. So kind of keep that in mind as we're introducing these to you tonight, okay? They're both concepts, they're both work in progress, knowing that we'll probably have to make some changes to both. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to that a brain freeze. We've only known each other for how many years now? And have Chuck kind of go through this. So,
Thanks, Tom.
that is your name, right?
Okay. Anyways, for those of you who've been attending board meetings previously, you may have seen many iterations of plans where we were potentially looking at adding on to the middle school, high school, et cetera, Well, what the board has asked us to do is to look at a concept to, if the referendum fails, what happens next? And what happens next is they've asked us to produce a solution that's a $4.1 million solution, which would move all the elementary school kids here, right in this school. So this plan, which again is just going to be a concept, this is not even close to a finished product, but what we would be looking at doing is adding on classrooms and do a real deep soul-searching assessment and working hard with the teachers and staff, et cetera, to determine the number of classrooms that we can afford to add into this school, what kind of budget we can spend on other parts of the school, and come up with the best potential solution. So what we are doing right now is we're going to take this basic kind of concept, as I said, as you can see the addition off of this wing of the school, and kind of elaborate on that and look to present that to the board, as Tom said, for approval at around February 8th. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the referendum concept next.
So is there any questions about this piece right here before we move on? Okay. The next piece that we're going to look at is a concept that we were asked to put together for the new school, if the referendum does pass. So there's two pieces to this. One, what happens if it doesn't pass? The school, the elementary kids move here. Yes?
Really, see what that was, or?
Yeah.
I'll go back to the.
Oh, sure. No, I asked the question, nobody said anything, so.
We didn't realize you were moving on, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, this is really the only slide we have of this piece right now. We knowing that we're going to have, whatever we do is going to have to fit into a $4.1 million budget. And so we're going to take this general concept and have to, massage it to make sure that it can fit into that budget requirement.
The lime green, that's the major construction areas.
Here you go, Chuck.
That's what I was explaining before, I was circling that. This area is the wing where we could add on to the building most efficiently, effectively. Makes sense. There's a corridor here that kind of lends itself to allowing us to extend the corridor and create classrooms off of that wing.
apologize, I should know, but what would the student count be in a pre-K through 8? My first concern would have to be the cafeteria and kitchen.
Absolutely.
Additional kids, are we going to be able to?
You're at 466 students.
166?
Yeah,
Around 466.
there's a lot of things that we're going to have to look at, including parking, access, drop-offs. A lot of concern with having a lot of kids into this school.
Pre-K through 8, yeah. I can't see it.
I don't have any front of the list at all.
I don't have any with
We
me.
don't have any front of the back, we have it all.
That is, this drawing is option 2, okay? And what they're going to do is when you're approving them tonight, is to take option 2 and reconfigure it for a $4.1 million budget. Option 2 is over $6 million. So that print will have to be reconfigured significantly to be in alignment with a $4.1 million budget.
And the board has already seen all of this, you should have all of this information. And that's why I said, tonight, we're not asking for approval of any concept, we're just sharing with you how we're planning to move forward.
Okay.
And that's going to include the next piece that you'll see after this. We're not asking for approval of it, we're handing it off to you so you have a chance to look at it, formulate any questions, and then we'll make any changes before that February 8th time.
I understand.
So by February 8th,
Ready to go, ready for publication, ready to share it to the community in any public meetings that we have, ready to post on the website, ready to be included in any informational brochures.
And keep in mind, the board has not authorized them to develop
right.
a consolidation of pre-K through 8 at this attendance center with a $4.1 million budget. You have contracted with them for pre-referendum services that also included conceptual drawings for a new school. So, to reiterate, they're going to take this drawing and reconfigure it to match a $4.1 million budget.
Any other questions about this before we move on? Okay? So then the next piece that we're going to look at is the concept that we've developed. Again, nothing more than a work in progress. If the referendum should pass, and what might be possible. And also, more importantly, what you really want to look at this for is knowing that this would be the image of the information that would be included in on your website, in any informational brochure. And so that's kind of the lens that you want to look at this through. We've done some work based upon basically a lot of experience in doing these kinds of buildings, but we also have met with the staff preliminarily and gotten their feedback, and these concepts include some of the feedback from the staff. But know also that if the referendum is successful, then we'll meet with the staff and have much more detailed meetings about specifics about classroom design, how the kitchen works, all the specific details about how spaces are used and all that kind of thing. So that kind of detail is not in this concept at this point in time. Okay? So we started out with some criteria that we know right now, which isn't a lot, but the referendum states that it's for a pre-K grade 3 school with 3 sections, K through 3, and 2 sections of pre-K. We know that the existing building is to remain during the construction. That's at least to this point in time, that's what we know. And so as we develop this concept, we know that that building is there. We have to use that as a workaround when we develop this concept. Is that clear? Okay. And so that kind of leads us to a two-story solution, because there simply is not enough footprint room in the remaining site to develop a one-story building. The building itself will have on-site separate bus and parent drop-off areas and staff parking areas, and we'll look at that in just a minute. We also have a typical classroom population of about 20 plus or minus kids. So that's the size that we're using right now, which tells us that that's a student population of about 280 to 320. And that we know that the referendum amount is $9.8 million with a total project budget of 10.4. And so whatever we do has to fit within that budget amount. So everything we do is sort of in the context of that criteria. Okay?
This is a question in the past. What if we start going over the budget? Can you make that very clear?
The general price, the price of this project cannot be more than $10.4 million. That's it. That's the budget amount. It can't go over. And so it's our job to make sure that when we're planning this, and we're talking to staff, we're talking to other stakeholders, that everybody, and it's normal, that everybody wants everything. And particularly they have their own, agendas about what they want to make sure happens. At the end of the day, what we have to do is a trade. And it's called cost trading with spaces and program areas and square footage. And that's the process of design. That's the real process of design, is making sure that we understand what you need and then how we prioritize that. And so it's going to be really important that we have a committee that helps us through that of stakeholders and community members. And, all those folks will be involved in the design of this thing. All will be allowed to give input, but just know that we can't do everything. We can do what is available to us. Okay? Did that answer your question? Thank you. Okay.
How did we get from 9.8 to 10.4? What is the difference there? We're asking for a $9.8 million referendum. Could you clarify where the difference is in the price? The total budget.
I believe it's the demolition of the building. Like there's an additional about $600,000. Is that the case or not? Okay. The numbers we received the numbers from the district.
I wasn't aware that it included anything as far as a number such as 10.4. So where is that something we're paying out of our reserves or?
Working cash.
So when was that effort sort of decided on? But it's the budget for them right now?
Total budget, the authorization from the taxpayer, the rest will come out of the That's essentially the demolition of that building.
Okay, so the board has approved that we were going to pay that out of reserves then?
Aren't we paying from reserves for the roof for the school?
The high point for the roof of the high school, you will probably have to bond that if you get approval for qualified school construction bonds, or you'll have to do life safety bonds. And that'll be $720,000 for that one.
I thought we would have had it.
That's what it's estimated.
That in advance.
That's a huge notch for homes.
Total repair bills between this building and the high school is $1.4 million. That's on the life safety amendments right now. And that's why we applied to qualified school construction bonds, was to pay for those at little or no interest.
Ralph, if we get qualified for those no interest bonds, can that be used for the demolition?
I don't think we can. authority, application for the authority to receive, to sell qualified school construction bonds is for a repair of that building. That's how we wrote it. And let me be very clear on qualified school construction bonds. The applications have exceeded the authority to sell those bonds. And what that means is there's been more applications to apply for them than there is money available. It's not a grant. All it is you'll get an entitlement for the authority to sell bonds, and then the federal government gives you a rebate for the interest.
Right.
There seems to be confusion. When, is it going to be February, we're going to know if we're being awarded those funds, or what?
I'm glad you asked that. Initially, the state board announced that February 15th would be the announcement. Right now, we know how they will allocate that money, okay? But there's been no recent announcement when they will allocate the authority to sell those bonds. There's one district, I think it's Aurora, that has applied for, don't quote me, but I think it's almost $300 million and $500 million a month. It's very, very competitive, very competitive.
Just to be clear, you're saying we will know by the 15th so that we can attempt to issue them, but we won't know the date we can actually get them. Is that right? They're going to allocate on the 15th, saying this is out. Well, the next amount of
And that's, I'm glad you asked that, because they don't actually provide money for it. They give you the authority to sell those bonds. And then you would go through the life safety process to issue life safety bonds. They initially announced February 15th, but they have not issued any other announcements beyond February 15th. And with so many applications and how competitive it's going to be, it's unknown. I can't do it.
So we'll have to bond that if we don't get them outside.
If we are given the authority to sell qualified school construction bonds, we will sell those bonds as life safety bonds, and then they will provide us with a rebate for the interest. If we are not given the authority to issue those, to sell those bonds, then to make the repairs, more than likely, you're going to have to bond life safety bonds to make those repairs at some point in time. Keep in mind, you also have a healthy reserve in Fund 20.
Okay, we'll continue. Chuck, why don't you kind of take it through the site plan?
The development of a conceptual site plan, again, is kind of based, as Tom touched on a little bit before, with keeping the existing elementary school in place. And I apologize for some of you in the back who may not see this, but that's on the, it's on the eastern part of the site. There's a red dashed line here currently. So what we would be proposing would be to construct a two-story school in this area, which is about 40,000 square feet, plus or minus, initially, and then to come back at a later time and then start to work on this portion of the project. Walking you through some of the parts of this project, what we envision, again, conceptually right now, is kind of a front main entrance of the school on High Street here. We have separate access for buses that would come through the front here with ingress and egress, which would not conflict with a front parking lot, which is circumnavigated by a parental drop-off, which would be a separate drop-off. So both the kids, all the kids would be coming in through the main entrance here. Again, the bus drop-off would be roughly in this area. Parental drop-off is roughly in this area. Additionally, from a vehicular access point of view. Kind of along the alley line on the west side, we've created a delivery access driveway, which also can certainly be used by firefighters to certainly navigate the building. So if the project was getting done in this form, we'd open up this building, and I'm sure a question would be asked is when it would be open. We would anticipate it to be open for the start of the 2017 school year. Okay, so now that's the building. Now once this building would be done and occupied, then the current school could be demolished. And then the site construction on this side could be performed, which includes this parent drop-off parking lot. There's some additional parking that currently is up here at the park. We would anticipate some additional parking here, and then some of the parking things, again, just conceptual, we'll fine-tune that as well. We've been talking with the city a little bit, and right now the kids do use the park across the street, and we would look to supplement playground areas with that park as well, making a safe crossing, which currently does not exist, across into this area. How that would be ultimately achieved is yet to be 100% determined, whether this portion of 7th would get shut down permanently or temporarily during school, or whichever. But something like that would happen. We envision secure playground area kind of off in this back corner of the building, and when I show you the floor plan, you'll understand a little bit more. We have pre-K classrooms on the first floor down over here. So from a security standpoint, from a site usability standpoint, the flow seems to work pretty well for what we get on such a tight space. Any questions from the board on this?
Could you tell me, this is the next page, but I can't really see the dimensions very well, it's too small a line. Can you tell me what the overall length of the...
I'll try to blow it up on the next plan, but if not, you get a copy of that, and Rolf can email you the copy, and then you'll be able to see it much easier.
Okay, it looks like it's about 200 feet long on each side.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what it is off the top of my head, but I can certainly get you those numbers pretty quickly.
Okay. I just wondered, what is the size of the lot?
Those numbers are, I get you all those numbers again. So it's, if I remember correctly, it was 264, but I'll get you the site plan as well. I'll forward that to you when I get back into the office. And we're working within the site parameters, obviously within the lot lines. The lot lines currently, there's a divide here, roughly where the sidewalk is, that comes certainly straight down, and then on the other side, which is where High Street is abandoned. So there's like 2 lots on abandoned street and another lot, and that's all the working area that we have for the entire project.
Comment that I have concerning the drop-off of the buses or the drop-off here. Because we highly congested, and I would just say if this big go, that parent drop-off goes one direction and the buses go down a different direction, just so that way there's not any children in the way, but also to alleviate traffic. Because if you have buses coming in, have parents coming in, some child might accidentally run out or something, get hurt, but we actually have them. The only thing that I would say about this, what we see right now, is the drop-offs, the way they are for the buses and for parents. They're so close together. It's a very narrow street. I live on it. It's very narrow. And if we have parents coming around in this circle and buses coming in this circle, it would almost be one of those things you'd want to route them so they're going in different directions. Parent drop-off versus bus. So that would just to be better.
Again, this is just the first look concept. Trying to get the tight site to kind of work and feel, but that's a great comment. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's still
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay. And again, these we purposely put the colors in there to kind of try to show what spaces are what, but very, again, concept plans here, which is why we're showing blocks of colors and not details of rooms and, door swings and things like that. We're not at that point yet. So in this concept plan, the front entrance is right here, which again was kind of centered on High Street. What we have is a secure entrance, which people would need to come into a secure vestibule, get approved by admin, which is right now in this general area, before being allowed into the building. So unlike the security issues and concerns that we have now in the elementary school, we would alleviate that in this scheme. I'm just going to quickly go over some general spaces that are in here without any detail. We have a learning resource center or library, pre-K classrooms along the north, kindergarten classrooms along the south, staff lounge, mechanical areas, maintenance office, gymnasium, cafeteria, kitchen, elevators, stairs, and things like that on the first floor. Okay. We go next to the second floor, which will have 3 sections of grades for first, second, and third grade, and those are kind of these green spaces you see here. We have some of the counselors' offices up here, PTOT, Title I, special ed, music over here, and again, stairs, bathrooms, and the like. These dashed lines that you see on the right here is the gymnasium, which is obviously a much taller space, so it will be a 2-story space. And currently, we anticipate the Learning Resource Center or library to have approximately a 1.5 story high space, so a taller space, a more important space. So I covered that fairly quickly, but I'd like to ask if there's any questions on the concept plan on these